listening to the Questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the Questionnaires.
I've just started.
Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The Questionnaire.
Get your comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
Stupid. Really stupid. Yeah, if you're not checking out some comic books, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Questionnaire. I mean, I'll be real honest. You ain't necessarily got to be reading comics, but you definitely should be reading something. If you're not reading something, it's a little bit on the stupid side. Let's be real honest. You know what I mean? And I mean, like, actual literature. Like, a lot of stuff on the internet, just frankly, it does not count, right? But I'd like to think this does. This is the Questionnaire, ladies and gentlemen. I am the unknown factor, at AKA Wade Wilson of hip hop. Yeah, but as always, man, we're on that comic book tip today, right? And wait, when's the? I'm trying to think. So we've just got a stack of co-hosts over here, man. I know we just had Vlad on talking with Doug about plastic guys and dolls. Man, that conversation got like all over the place because we got into he'd just been to San Diego Comic-Con, so we got into all that as far as seeing the drone show with Galactus and just how crazy that place was. But then I heard some sad news when we got Scott Wojcik up in the house, and you gotta look, we went from all talking about San Diego Comic-Con, and then you just got to bring it to the comic book store closing.
Hey, yeah, how's it going, Jay? Yeah, there is a comic book store close to us, the Hero's Tale. Andrew Selker, I think it is. So, absolutely amazing person. He's been amazing for the indie creators and the comic industry itself, and it's too bad to hear.
I don't ever like to hear of a store closing that sells literature, to be real honest. I mean, unless I had to stop myself because I about said something that, I just shouldn't. But we're just Scott, I'm trying to dig myself into a wormhole and just go right to Death Valley before we even get to our guests. Yeah, that being Becka Kinsey. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Wait.
Doing well.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. And like you, Scott, I'm also very sad about the Hero's Tale. Like Andrew and Chris are two of the best humans in this industry. I gotta say this: support your comic shops. Support them.
Absolutely.
These two, they gave it their all for this community. But somehow, there's a part of me that's hoping somehow. I don't know. It's like you were saying earlier, Scott. We should give them a bash or something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Work they've done or something for the store. I don't know. If I had all the money in the world, I would just want to save it. I don't know.
Well, let's get into this. Well, let's get into this then, Becca. Yeah. Because on the first thing we got into with Doug Wagner was how can people support their favorite artists and creators and writers and everything beyond monetary, right? Which there's obviously a great deal of ways you can do that with the creator. Doug, Vlad, and myself all got into that on the previous quest. I'm curious, in the case of a store like that, do you think there's anything besides monetary that people could do to help support it? Or does it equate to the same thing as far as just share that crap on social media so more people see it?
Yeah, just share everything on the socials, talk about it, word of mouth, just anything. If there's a sale going on, if there's something, just go over there. If you have an idea for a shop, because they had a lot of, Scott, you've seen it yourself. They had a big space where you had, they had comic book workshops. They had once a month, they were having people selling a mini market indoors. There's a way to collab with stores like that. I'm seeing more and more shops that they have comics, but then they do something else combined with that somehow, like a combined business venture with it. Just, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in the world and things change in that. But at the same time, it's I still like to think, having a shop in this day and age, a comic shop that, it is needed here in this world, the mom and pop shops of the comics industry,
absolutely.
Oh yeah. No, I fully agree, because I think people don't realize that the shops will always create a greater sense of community, just as the cons will, as opposed to anything that you would ever find on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's because on the internet, people are quicker to ruffle someone else's feathers because it's anonymous. Still, they'll say whatever because you're. What are you gonna do? Scream back at them into the void? That's your only choice, you know.
Yeah.
Which is why I have what past guests called a healthy social relationship with social media. I say I'm not on it enough to promote the show, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I like to think the show's really good. It just has terrible promotion, and that's all my fault too, and whatever. You know, but I do think that's a problem, and I fully agree. What do you think is the main thing that a mom and pop stores like that offer to the comic book community that if they go the way of the dinosaur, please I hope they don't, please I hope they don't, please I hope they don't, right? What do you think would be lost?
It's just what the Hero's Tale brought. They brought a sense of community to everybody, and they did a great job connecting well with their neighbors also at Preston. The downtown Preston was where they were located. Like, they would support shops. Like, there were a couple of gaming shops, like one kind of next door or 2 doors down. Scott, you know.
Yeah, I think the hobbies.
Yeah. And if there's something needed, they go next door. I had some Krampus Christmas cards last year, and they somehow connected with a tattoo shop next door, like somebody that was interested. You know, it was just like there was a real sense of community up there, and you know, any shop, you know, they really do bring people together. You know, like I don't know, it's just. Every one of these shops has something different, and I feel like the Hero's Tale was starting to get something to be different from all the other shops out there. But if they were given enough time, I don't know. Like, I obviously never had a shop myself before, so I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but it's just, I don't know. It's just not right. Just for them closing so soon. Like, they just had their 1 year anniversary this past spring, and then for that to drop suddenly, I don't know. I just wish there was something more, or maybe there is something more that I don't know that we as a community can do to help them, or something, or acknowledge something. Yeah, I feel like I'm totally unfocused right now, and I'm sorry. I'm still recovering from the news about.
Yeah, Jay, you know Keith Gratchow that you've had on. So Keith runs the workshop there.
Yeah.
So
aren't you supposed to be getting him on to do something for a PanCon, and you've not been on it?
So Keith runs the workshop there. On top of that, and like Becca was saying, he had like there's a bakery down the road that he would get all of his cupcakes from when he was doing a bash. And everyone there in some way has he just opens the stores for any indie creators. So like I'm sure you've seen when I launched Marvelous Tales of Wonder, he opened the door to me. Right. He's like, yep, come in. He's like, we'll launch it on my page, on everything. And then on top of that, he also has a massive wall. It's like 15 feet by, and like, I don't know, six or seven stands high of indie created comics. It's all indie created. It's one whole section dedicated to indie creators. So Andrew kind of, he was different than everyone else, and that says a lot about his personality and who he is.
Yeah, and he would also allow you, if he had a Kickstarter, he would allow you to film at his store, even use his basement downstairs that had like all these creepy mannequins and stuff there. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he was really supportive. He is really supportive of the indie community, and Chris too. Like, just really stellar individuals, and they know their comics. They know, And last year too, remember when he had Gail Simone and Erica Schultz there as guests last November? That was huge, man.
We so need to
Yeah.
get Gail on the show. We just had Erica on not that long ago.
Yeah.
Actually, twice. Once co-hosting with Lana Congus, and then coming on to get in with what she's all got going on. Which, holy crap, it's a lot. The first female to ever race Spawn. I'd say that's a nice little check mark on the resume if there ever was one. You know what I mean?
Awesome. That's so awesome. Erica was so cool when I met her last year. Yeah.
Pleasure. Yeah, every time she's been on the show, which if y'all want to go check, there's actually, I don't know, man, 4 or 5. It's one or the other. Maybe it's more. I might be wrong, but I think it's either 4 or 5. Why do you always want to make an appearance on the show anymore? Huh?
So an animal crashing. Aww.
And that's always the response he gets.
He's so cute. Is he or she?
He, yeah.
He. Aww.
Yeah.
He likes to be on the camera. He likes the snuggles. Aww.
What? Well, I think on Doug Wagner's interview, he just walked up and did this.
Yep.
Started chilling on my shoulder. This is the other new co-host. He's just always here. It's Scotty, right? Just don't make him mad. You'll get the optic blast. Hey. Or maybe some just really sharp claws, man, right in the neck. Dude, you're dangerous. But in that regard, I'm curious. Do you think with Hero's Tale, do you think it was something that, because I mean, look, if you're gonna run a shop like that, you have to a certain degree, focus on what the masses want, which in most cases is going to be the big two. Those are always going to be your biggest sellers. Do you think there was something to where perhaps it wasn't a proper balance in that he was trying to help all the local indie creators, so that made it falter somewhere in regards to dealing with the larger companies?
It's I don't know about that part of it, but there were definitely Marvel and DC books in the shop, including graphic novels. There was also manga. There's also manga in there. Just sometimes with previews, there'd be issues with orders. Not their fault though. It's just
it could be Diamond, it could be Penguin, it
could be anyone. Yeah.
Someone was, and I've heard it from so many different shops of shipping issues and that.
Yeah, shipping issues, which is not their fault at all. It's just somebody, would out of the blue cancel an order, and it's no, we put that through. Just anything like that. Yeah.
And see, that's why I don't have any issue, or the issue 2 of Helverine, because apparently when they shipped it to Mages, every one of them was just jacked, So they got their shipment, but it was well, this is no good, and then they still haven't even gotten any more. It's been a long time since that comic has come out, that particular issue. So so I do get that. I hate to hear shops like that closing. I mean, for so many reasons. I mean, even if you told me a Barnes and Noble or something was closing, I'd be like, that's bull, man. More people should go to it. But what do you think it is necessary then? Let me put this real bluntly, to make people realize that maybe they shouldn't watch so much TikTok. Maybe they should read something.
Oh man, just I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It's
Here, let me give the funny answer. Check out the questionnaire on TikTok, right? I'm starting to get more reels on TikToks up there. Thanks for the fact that Shiro created me this nice graphic and made it simpler to edit.
I mean, book talk's a thing, right? So, where authors are going there to promote their books or something. I mean, I'm not on there. I don't know.
Oh, you will be. If I can find time to edit everything anyways, I'm not gonna say, right, yeah. That's my plan, is to have clips from every episode up on TikTok. But it's, so yeah. So I think it's funny. I know for a fact I've put people up on TikTok that in no way, shape, or form will ever use TikTok. Yeah, I know it. Like, there are people that I've thrown up there that they ain't ever, like, when I put Fabian up on TikTok, you think Fabian is ever going to start using TikTok? Are you serious? I seen Fabian start using TikTok. I'd be like, he is trolling people, and that is the only reason he is on there. Yeah. What do you find when you're trying to go about social media to really promote something that works best for you?
I think what works best is I like collaborative posts the best because that way you're like supporting each other and then the engagement tends to be better. At least that's what I find. I'm trying to improve on that part of it, like just to share cool things that I like or cool art. But that's something I need to work on, and also just engaging with people online too. Yeah, just supporting. Just if you see something cool, share it, talk about it. You know, like how it helps everybody out, right? Trying to promote their stuff. Like, yeah, I don't. Right now, I'm trying to experiment with video, and I'm just kind of blindly posting whatever sticks on the wall, I guess. Like, I keep forgetting. I draw on my iPad, right? And I keep forgetting on the program I use it's called Procreate. There's a time lapse button. So I always forget to hit record, because I'm trying to save space on my iPad. But this time, I have a cover that just got added to previews recently for Rebel Girls 4. And so to help promote that, I've been posting these time-lapse videos of the work in progress. So they're just broken down in little chunks, like roughly, most of them are about 28 to 30 seconds long. Yeah, 28 to 30 seconds long. And yeah, I might like post some stuff like that on occasion, like sprinkle that in, but I still prefer to post just still images of art because I feel like art, yeah, you can record yourself doing it, but sometimes you need that photo to, capture what you're making. And then also people, I find like the Comic-Con events photos, right? I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Do you find that the videos seem to pick up a little bit more viewership to the photos, or have you posted a lot of videos on your social?
I just got up the third video in my series because I had part 3 and then I realized I deleted it by accident. So this is a trial and error kind of thing. But I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and post what I have. Like, screw it. So sometimes it looks like, oh, I think that's gaining a little traction, and other times it's like, that isn't great. But I just let it go with the flow and not worry about it too much, because I just learn if I post something and it looks like it doesn't gain traction, someone always sees it, because then I hear about it later on, like, oh, somebody came in the shop and they're looking for a Wormhole Club or Gehenna, or not to get into the nitty gritty details, but I had an event happen on my street earlier this summer, and without getting into the details, like, it brought all the neighbors out, and through some of those interactions, I found out, like, there's some people who know what I do for a living. A lot of them creep on my profiles, like, whatever it is. Like, if you think you're not getting comments and likes and whatever, people lurk. Yeah. That's what I learned. And then someone's like, oh, my kids follow your stuff and they love your work. I'm like, who are you people? I mean, it's cool, but yeah. So it's you never know. You never know. So yeah, this is just observations I'm taking in this past year with.
Why do you, and look, I
don't know.
In my experience in the hip hop community, I know for a fact there were people that were creeping my profile, and both positively and negatively. And I know that it happened because other experiences I had after it happened in person, and I had I said that's the hip hop side of things. I'm glad I don't deal with a number of hip hop artists I did anymore. But why do you think it is that people will just creep like that and not acknowledge? Do you think it's the lack of knowledge that, like, they don't know that if they do interact it is helpful, or do you think it's they just want to see it and they don't want to be helpful because part of them is jealous because you didn't let go of your dream?
You know what? I can only speculate, but honestly, I don't like wasting energy with that. It could be the answer could be more complex. For
Hey,
me,
hey, this is the
um,
quest. You better speculate, else I'll pull a Hannibal and throw out a dragon. Okay.
I mean, another thing too is I most of the stuff I make is horror, right? So a lot of people they don't want to be like I'm into this, like or maybe they are creeping as a different name or something, and I might not recognize them, right? That's the other option. But
Do you when people like that come to you, like someone that that you didn't even know that was watching what the work you're doing, and then
yeah.
tell you that my daughter really loves what you're doing, or my son, and is that really inspirational for you?
Oh yeah, it's like a huge high. Like, well, maybe, yeah, it's a huge. Yeah, it feels great. It's like yeah, I'm doing something. And it's like it's just a constant reminder of like not get hung up with your posts. It's like if you think you're not doing well, just keep it up. Just post anyway. People come back to it, or who knows, and you can reshare it again sometimes. Like
Yeah.
I've had posts where I've had like, oh, this didn't do very well, but then I'll post it again like a year later or something, and they're like, oh, that looks great. And it's like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting taking notes of that, right? And I'll just take anything, and really I just look at social media, just have a healthy relationship with it, just be community focused with it, and just use it as a marketing tool, right? And a connection tool. And just share things that you like and that are cool, and go from and use it as a resource too, because sometimes you can find information of things within your community, whatever, if it's the arts community, comics, or your own community, right? That's how I found out about the punk rock flea markets that I do on occasion, for example. Just scrolling on my feed, saw the applications there, and just let's try it. This looks cool.
Yep.
And then it just opens a new world of like possibilities that
I understand because nobody realizes I just got the cat to put him on the show because I know people love cats and they'll watch the cat be all cute and then not realize they're listening to a conversation about comic books.
Yes.
It's all a trick because look at the cute kitty, right? Now let's
He's
talk
so
about
cute.
now let's talk about a wormhole. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice segue.
And get bit in the face. All right.
This one.
Well, that's like Wormhole. It just like it sucks you in and bites you in the face.
How? He literally bit my face.
Aw, got a mischievous kitty there.
Now you look better.
Scott, you're lucky you're in Canada. I would throw this cat at you. All right. Now he's like, look, I'm taking the. He's like, I'm hiding now. Look, y'all scared him off camera. Y'all made fun of him. Scott, you made fun of him, Scott. And now he's like, I gotta go. What are you doing?
Or no, he's like, my job is done. I've made my presence known, and I'm just gonna be,
Now he's gonna go talk to Lion Cat. Because why not? Right? But the Wormhole Club tragedy, right? I want to know about this because that title is very, very intriguing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Like, what's a Wormhole Club? Because that either sounds like we shouldn't be talking about it on a PG show.
Okay. So the Wormhole Club, it's in reference to a nightclub at the start of the story that gets set on fire, completely burns down. And one of the patrons of said nightclub is burnt as well. There's a spontaneous human combustion incident from this nightclub incident. And this event is the beginning of a lot of things. Like the internet becomes obsessed with this event and notice that there's a connection with other events, and there's usually a person or a thing that's there. So the internet becomes obsessed with what or who caused it, and when will it happen next? Why is this happening? You know, and then there's this person, like on the cover, the internet's called her Forticia Vortex because her head turns into a black hole. And yeah. She tends to show up and causes chaos and havoc and all the things. So the characters in the story are going down this rabbit hole of this event and the vortex. What's going on, you know? And one of them is a psychologist whose patient is one of the witnesses of the fire, and keeps going down this rabbit hole, and it consumes his time and energy, you know, as you know what happens when we're on the internet and we go down a rabbit hole. It just keeps going and going and going, and where's it going to end up? And then suddenly she just appears out of nowhere and bites you in the face.
What made you want to write a character that had a black hole for a head?
I don't know. It's just stuff like that just kind of pops in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's terrifying. The imagery, like I have it, and I'm just like, why don't I just make a comic about that? That would be fun. And then I go and do the comic, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought. But then I just keep going, you know, just the creative process, right? And I just let the story form on its own and just go with it. And so now there's 3 issues of it, and I'm working on the 4th right now. And Scott, you know Alfonso. Yep. Of course, Studio Comics. Yep. He's seen some of the page previews and is like, "Oh, this is super creepy." And
nice.
You can actually check out Alfonso on the very last official episode of season 1. You have to go pay on the Patreon to see the unofficial episode because that's Vlad questioning me, which, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so another thing with Forticia Vortex character, I was like, okay, she doesn't bite you in the face, literally. But like she, if you're not careful, she will spaghettify victims, basically, or like suck you in. And if you're a fan of like 80s horror movies or body horror kind of stuff, then this is maybe up your alley. I call my stuff like it's wholesome body horror content. I say it jokingly.
Is this like do you have quite a bit of this already kind of written yourself? Like past issue 4, you got quite a bit done.
Yeah. So I'm working on like issue 4 and 5 on the same time, like script wise. But I'm already well into the art of issue 4.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I'm hoping to have it out sometime in the summer or maybe fall at the latest, like around Frightmare time frame. And if I'm lucky, maybe Fan Expo. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right now, with the way the art's coming out, like I don't want to, like if it comes out naturally, quickly, fine. But I also don't want to rush it and have like poor looking artwork, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
How do you make sure you're finding that balance? As far as, because I mean, I know there's part of you that wants to get it done. So obviously you want to focus and get it done. How do you make sure you haven't rushed yourself? And how do you know that you have?
It's a learning process. Like with Gehenna, I learned a lot with, I would just rush and just sacrifice all this time, like from my social life and things like that. Just like, I got to get this done. And then one of the books had like a lot of errors and spelling errors and stuff. And I was just like, okay, I will not do this again. Like sacrifice the quality of the comic just to get this done on time for a convention. But like right now with Wormhole Club, I'm trying to take more breaks in between so that the art comes out fresh, like fresher, and also the story comes out fresher. And there is a huge difference with the quality coming out as I'm making the artwork, right? So it's just trying to find that balance. It's a work in progress, but it's definitely an improvement. And I've been working with an editor this time too, Drina Joe. So it's been a huge help. Like I go over everything. I'm like, I think this is all right. And then someone's like, oh, there's a mistake here, and here. So just taking the time to make the product come out.
So you don't have any kind of editor on this?
Sorry?
You don't have any kind of editor on this?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I've done differently versus Gehenna, where I'm just like winging it. I'm just like, I hope it all comes together and makes sense. And which, yeah, it somehow it did, but yeah, it was like there was this one issue, I forget. Yeah, it was the 6th issue where there was just a page full of spelling and grammar mistakes. I'm like, oh no, and it's in print. This is so not professional. But I've got it fixed up for the trade edition, thankfully. So it's, yeah.
Well, and I think that that's something that happens when, you know, and you don't see a lot of spelling mistakes in that in Marvel, but you do see
I found some before.
You found some?
I've found. I mean, I don't remember them, but I mean, I've read enough comics from Marvel that like there's been times where I'm like, that wasn't right, and I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't remember it because it wasn't a noteworthy to me, but I know there's at least a couple times in the time I've read comics in my life where I was like, that's wrong, and then I just moved on.
Do you think that has a lot, because I know like I've talked to quite a few people that have worked for like some of the bigger companies. Do you think that that's part of the issues that they may, you know, they're pushing a story out too fast and maybe it doesn't all work together because, you know, it's like they have deadlines and, you know, like I've heard horror stories of like, you know, you need to do 4 covers for us and we're only going to pick one, but you need to do it by the tomorrow night, right? Type thing.
Yeah.
And then you see the covers and you know the person and his artwork, and then you're like, well, no wonder they didn't turn out the way he wanted them to. It's because, you know, he had to rush through them, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a part of, have you noticed in even yourself a balance between those two, where you've worked with a deadline and then also worked without and noticed the difference in your artwork?
Yeah, absolutely. Like having, if I extend my deadline or if I'm like, oh, I'm not going to make it for this deadline, but I'll extend it. And yeah, there is a huge difference, you know, just allowing just the book to breathe a bit and then the quality comes out better, for sure, versus rushing. And then you're like, oh man, this is like, there's so many mistakes here and there, or I'm not proud of what's on the paper, or it didn't come out the way I wanted to in my head. But it's like, I got to get out in print to show that I can make this many comic books or that I'm fast or something. But it's right now, it's like, no, I'd rather just come out with, well, not perfection, but I just want the final product to look good, right? And also the story to be good, you know, because in the end, I just want the consumers and people, or just anyone who reads my books, I shouldn't say consumer, like it's a separate, I don't know. I feel like I'm speaking corporate when I do that, but like, but no, like people who read my books, I want them to enjoy the book, right? I just want, yeah. And I think it's a better experience for everybody, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think that's entirely right. I'm sorry, I was just kind of. It's been a long day. I hadn't had time to look through your questionnaire properly. I apologize for that. But the fact, the fact that you said Calvin and Hobbes to live in, that's where you would live. That I think that, because look, I've seen My Little Pony. Well, I said My Little Ponies. Care Bears has been a given answer, which I think are both really probably pretty safe answers. And then apparently I was told they really weren't because it gets violent in this place. Whatever. But Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, I mean that's Earth. Yeah. You make me wonder, why did it take someone so long to answer like that, or like Garfield?
Yeah. I did think about Garfield, I'm not gonna lie, but I was like, no, Calvin and Hobbes, that'll be, you know, the safest place, you know, to live in as a normal person. Like anything else, like I was looking at the other comics I read, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't want to live in Akira or Uzumaki or, you know, just no.
I feel you make me want to add, or you make me either want to switch that question or add one, or I don't know, and make it to where, what comic book world would you really not want to live in as a fictional person? I think I might have to flip that for future questionnaires. You know, like let's change it. Let's make it to where what one do you think is the most dangerous of the one you can think of? We might have to do that. And if everybody wants to check out pre-show questionnaires, we never get anything. Go check out the Patreon, right? It's
Yeah.
like all you got to do is be a member. Actually, you can check out all season 2s and season 1s if I ever get to switch them over. But that's beside the point, right? How do you handle promotion differently from because obviously when you're at a con and you're doing it, it's a whole different level because you have the person in front of you compared to social media where you just have to do whatever works. I guess I don't know. I haven't figured it
Yeah.
out yet. I'm really good. If I'm in person, I'm really good at selling the show. But if it's social media, some
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, with myself, I'm quite comfortable with computers and just typing stuff. Like for me, it's just easier to express myself that way. And then when I'm in real life, I'm quite socially awkward and introverted. And so I feel like day one, I'm warming up and I make mistakes and I'm like, what's my pitch again? Even though I write notes and stuff. And then finally I get into my groove of it. So, and it's still a learning process with me, just talking to people in real life. But so thankfully there's the table separating me and the crowds because I don't like to say this publicly. I am on the spectrum myself.
Oh, hey,
So
it's okay.
yeah.
I only recently I'm self-diagnosed autistic, and this only because I found out my boy was, and then going through everything, even like when you look at a therapist that deals with kids from young as crap to 18, and they go, you think I'm autistic?" And they don't say anything. They just look at you and go,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, so
Yeah.
I understand that. I don't think that's anything that you shouldn't be willing to say because I think that's something that's kind of imperative for people to hear, for them to understand that people that are on the spectrum like that can go
Yeah.
and make wonderful art, wonderful stories, really, really great quests over here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
to that effect. I think it's
Yeah.
important for people to be aware of that.
Yeah. It's just like before I'm trying to get more comfortable talking about it, but before it's like people who are not familiar with what it is, it's like I get either one or two reactions, which is like people think I'm lying because I tend to pass as like normal-ish or normal. Like they see that I'm weird somehow, but they can't quite figure out why. And then the second reaction is like they try to baby me or mother me somehow because they think I can't do things. And it's like, no, I can do the thing. And then there's like the odd time I'll come across somebody who I end up being friends with who totally gets it and, they don't treat me differently. Yeah. So, yeah. But I think like the comics community it's been good so far. Just
and everyone's very supportive in this industry. They really are. Yeah. No matter who you are, whatever little ticks you have and that, everyone's pretty laid back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait. What was that, Scott?
What?
You're like everyone's pretty laid back, and then you just got quiet, and I feel like you were staring at me.
I know that I self-diagnosed myself. Right?
Oh, well, I thought you were saying.
Sure.
I thought you were like, I'm not laid back, which I agree. Not laid back, man. My brain's wired like I do things that my neighbors do. All right, but I don't like incense burners. Is what the gas station down here calls them. If you want to buy one of them things that you can smoke them things out of, I swear they called it an incense burner. I had a guy here. I'll tell you. Let's just throw a really screwy non-comic story out real quick, Becka, and you can't tell me that. So I go to the gas station real late. Guys like, hey man, can you help me? I just need like $1 to buy an incense burner. I got all this. And I was like, yeah, dude, whatever. So I go and I was like, I get my stuff, and I get one incense burner. And I've never seen an incense burner that was a glass pipe with a ball at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know incense burner was code for pipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Learned something new.
Yeah.
I mean, in Indiana, apparently, at least at that particular gas station, it is. And I was like, what a I don't do that. My mind's just wired like I do. That's just, that's just the whole that autism thing, man. So I get it as far as what you were saying, as far as people being like, you're kind of weird, but they couldn't place it. That's
Yeah.
why. That's why when the dude was like, "You're the unknown factor," I was like, "That works perfect," and it works perfect because I'm autistic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's exactly. And I didn't. I had that stage name before I even knew that, and then when I found that out, I was annoyed a little bit at that stage name. To be real honest, part of me was like, just sort of growled at it for real. But I'm like, whatever, I am the unknown factor, that's just how it is, and just ride with it. But I think it's important to take that part of your personality and accept it, because the more you can accept it, I think the more it allows you to dive into yourself and
Yeah.
art at a deeper level. You know what I mean? I think if you look throughout this span of human history, I'm pretty sure most of the really, really, really great artists, they were probably autistic. Like
Yeah.
if the Ninja Turtles aren't autistic, if no one got that reference, I'm really upset. All right. I don't mean the actual turtles. I mean their namesakes. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they're namesakes, if they weren't to a certain degree, I'd kind of be surprised. Now, mind you, there's no way we can ever know that, because how are you gonna figure that out? Unless somebody invents a time machine. Nobody invented a time machine. We do enough damage without being able to time travel as a species. I don't want to know what we would do if we could time travel as a species.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other.
We would probably end up with some lady with a black hole for a face, just walking around. That's really probably what would happen, Becca.
Yeah, we don't want to go there. No.
No.
Somebody on a rage quest, with the black hole for a head.
Jeez. So I want to know though, what initially got you into art? You said you just noticed when you were really young, you were just able to really draw cartoony figures. At what point did you decide, excuse me, decide to take that and try and make it something that you did on this level?
It just starts with a crazy obsession. Like I just knew I wanted to draw and I wanted to get better at it. And it was my granddad and one of my aunts, Aunt Lori, who they both encouraged me, but then they also critiqued my work, and nobody else did that. Like all other people around me, they liked my drawings and they're like, "Oh, you're so good," and it's like, "Okay, cool, thank you." But then like these two people in my life, they challenged me, and that's what I needed, because like I tend to get bored easily, and obviously I guess some people would call me a cartoonist, I guess, because I write and draw my own stuff. I learned that's the actual definition of a cartoonist. Not that I thought it meant that you drew stuff like Calvin and Hobbes or Garfield and have this loose style. But anyway, so from a kid, I moved on from drawing stuff I would read, like, my stuff kind of looked like something you'd see in Garfield or Calvin and Hobbes. And I wanted to draw, like, form my own style. And then I got into anime and manga and indie comics and just use those influences in my art. And, it just kept going. And, when I was a teen, I was like, oh, I'm going to make my own comics. And finally, I just posted web comics just to see if I could do it. It's just, it's just a journey, just having this mindset as a kid, like I am an artist and I'm going to be a cartoonist when I grow up, and I'm still on this journey today, just to see how far it can go with it. And just what I didn't expect from it though was just how much community is involved in the comics making. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but it's just
very much so.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying very much so. I understand. It should be the same way in hip hop, but a lot of the times it's not. But that's a whole other story. Not that I don't love my brother and all of Zay. Let me clarify.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey so far, and just so far there's been challenges, but I love every minute of it so far, the good and bad of the creative process, and from that point to getting books out there and having people read it, and then they come back for more, right? And it's like, okay, I'm doing something, people are coming back and they're wanting more, and they're getting excited for the next issue or the next trade,
And I'm curious. Oh, go ahead,
Go
Scott.
ahead. No,
No,
I was just gonna
go
say,
ahead.
do you think that because I looked at the books that you read when you were younger, or the ones that you loved, right?
Mhm.
And specifically the characters. And do you think that those greatly affected what you started wanting to do with your career?
Oh yes, like the whole. I just realized, more recently how much, like it's not comics, but I talk about Lord of the Rings a lot when you guys sent me those questions, and just realizing like, wow, that's really influenced my work. Like specifically Gehenna Death Valley. There's the giant spiders. There's the cloaked figures with, well, in this case they're wearing masks, but like the Nazgul or ring wraiths left a huge impression on me as a kid, and so like I would see, like as a kid, I would see like the cover for the Lord of the Rings, like specifically the movie, the cartoon.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the images of the ring race, and I'm like, that looks amazing. It looks scary, but it's like, I want to see this, right? And then when the movies, like the Peter Jackson movies came out, and I absolutely adored them. And that was my whole, like, there was people who were into Harry Potter. For me, it was Lord of the Rings. Just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just, if you're going to bring that up, I just got to say, if you want to hear a great story about Alan Henry about passing out on the set of Lord of the Rings, just go a couple episodes back, because yeah, he talks about a whole experience where it was about a falling orc. You know what I mean? Because he got a little
Yeah.
toasty in one of them suits. But yeah, that's very interesting. It's interesting to think that Lord of the Rings is one of the things that influences work like that. And I think that's something about comics that people don't understand is
Yeah.
that they are influenced by everyone. Like the Ed Brubaker book that I showed you guys in the pre-show, the I read it today. Just what it's the body that was left, right? Or wait, what? I have to
The
grab
body
it.
that was.
The body that, yeah, the body that was. Um, like if you look at that, that is a very small town kind of mystery story if you walked up to somebody that was like, "Oh yeah, man, I love the MCU," and you were like, "Read this comic book." When they were done with it, they would hand it back to you and go, "I didn't know they made comic books like that."
Yeah.
Like just it's what would be stuck in their head. And I mean, you could say this on so many levels because the general population, like I think a lot of them still just have this tuned into their head that when it comes to comics, it's capes and cows, and that's what it is. You know, when clearly if you're into comics or if you've been watching this show, I mean, like I said, you know that's not. There's every level of anything that you can think of. How do you get it through on a more public level that about comic books? Because I think if that can become more of a prevalent fact and people are more aware of the fact, don't go attack the other cat, Scotty. Sorry. It's like, listen, man, I got my optic blast. I'm gonna take him out. I'm pitch big. I'll do it. Freaking Pete. How do you think you could get that perception across to the general public? Because I feel that if you could, and they didn't just think it was all capes and cows, then perhaps that would be something that I think would get more people into specialty retailers and comic shops. You know what I mean? Because they would have like I know Dave still says he still has people coming in and they'll see The Walking Dead and they'll be like, they made that a comic?
No, the comic came first. It came first.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think this year, like in Canada, there's Scott, you know this, the Canada Reads or whatever it's called. Like
Yeah.
yeah, usually it's like fiction or nonfiction books, but actually the book that won this year was a graphic novel, right? So that's already a huge step for the comics community. It's I can't believe I forgot her name. It's Kate something. Oh.
I can't remember what it is either.
It's called Ducks, basically. It's an autobio comic. But yeah, that one won the top prize this year. So I think like getting that kind of recognition is huge, you know? So I think like there's years where something like that breaks through and people are like, oh, I had no idea. And then it just kind of goes through a cycle where people forget about it until something else breaks through into the mainstream. And I had no idea. Or like your example, like people had no idea that The Walking Dead was a comic book first before it was the successful TV show. And there's so many other comic book related media out there that people had no idea that were based on comic books. Like how many people know about Preacher or, you know,
Yeah.
for example.
Do you think that companies like Boom and Dark Horse and that have allowed those types of stories being told? It's kind of boosted it over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Hopefully it keeps growing. Like there's more recognition going forward too. Not that this weird cycle of, oh, hey, there's this thing and people forget about it again. I think like before Ducks happened. So the author is Kate Beaton. That's who she is. I just had to do a quick Google search on that. Before that, there was Mouse by Art Spiegelman that got all this critical acclaim in the States. But that's been many years ago and people have forgotten about that. I think like the general mainstream public, right? So the only thing you hear about is if, say, Spiegelman has like a art exhibit or something. Like a few years ago in Toronto, there was a Art Spiegelman exhibit where he had all of his original comics artwork, including Mouse, pages for Mouse, for example. So anyway, let's just see how it goes in the future. And I would hope, just looking optimistically, that there'll be more comics works recognized and things like Canada Reads or more stuff in the States that gets more recognition, because there's a lot of different kind of comics out there besides superheroes and all that.
Yeah, very much. I honestly, there's this part of me that hopes that people come to realize how much entertainment they're getting introduced to as far as film and TV, and perhaps become more aware of the fact of its original source, you know. But this goes back to a conversation I had a while ago. I think it's odd. If you look at, say, look at the Marvel films. The Marvel films, they don't drive the comic book sales. That's just, I mean, maybe somebody might go pick up a graphic novel or two, but converting someone from a MCU fan to I read comics like floppies.
The floppies.
Like it makes me wonder how many times that's happened, or even if it ever has. I really hope it has. I hope y'all go enjoy those movies and are like, "Ooh, I'm gonna read." Yes, because read. Like, there's even books about all those characters. If you don't write comics, it's fine. Just read, right? But flip the comparison and look at Game of Thrones. Right. Game of Thrones comes out. Then book sales went up. And suddenly there are different special editions of those books that didn't exist prior to this. Big box sets, all of this. They're making box sets every time he drops a new book. You know what I mean? It becomes a whole elaborate thing. Why do you think there is such a difference in that? As far as when a book translates to something, it typically does affect the book sales. But if you translate a comic into a different medium, maybe? You know,
maybe. Yeah.
Like maybe.
I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just maybe. I was just saying maybe again.
I think like there's part of the stigma from adults that comics are for kids. I think that's part of it, you know, and not realizing, no, it's a great literary, legit thing that you can read as an adult. Like it's not childish at all. But I don't know if it comes from like picture books that, oh, this is kid stuff, right? It's not, you know. People don't think of it as a thing like, yeah, this is for adults too, right? You know, I don't know. I'm suspecting that's what it probably is, that stigmatized kind of thinking about comic books.
For anyone watching this particular quest, all right, let me scoot over here real quick. Stretch my long arm out. All right, this particular book right here. If you go over to the Patreon, I'll show you like 3 pages on the inside of it. I'm just not putting it on YouTube because then your whole quest will get pulled, Becca. They will not be happy at me if I open
the copyright strike.
Oh no, not the copyright strike. I could show every page in this, and I don't think Ed Brubaker or anybody over at, I think, what is this? Wait, who was this? Image. Yeah, it's Image. I don't think
Oh,
anybody
Image.
over at Image. I don't think anybody over at Image is going to be like, "Why is he doing that? Don't show our comic book.
Yeah.
Don't promote our book." No, I don't. I think they would all be like, "Yes, promote our book. Encourage." This is a great story, by the way. Like in all
Mhm.
sincerity, this is a really. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. And again, it's in no way, shape, or form capes and cows. But again, there are pages that if I opened to them, um, this video would get cut off at that point. And if
Yeah.
you want to go over to the Patreon, I'll show you exactly why. I will, and you'll see that comic books aren't just for kids in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. With that note about book sales and the material it's based, that the books are based on. I'm really curious with how Uzumaki is going to do once that anime drops. Have you guys seen the previews for that from San Diego Comic-Con? So
For what?
Uzumaki, the Junji Ito horror manga.
Oh, I didn't see that. No.
Okay, so it's an anime that's in black and white, just like the book, and the animation looks amazing. So I'm just really curious if the book sales for that is gonna jump. Like for North American comics, it's like sales, but I think manga does a bit better for book sales. I'm making that assumption here because it seems to sell better than North American comics, but I could be wrong. Like, feel free to correct me if I'm.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
and neither am I. But let me just destroy my own whole question real quick, because sometimes I
Okay.
like to do that. Right. So I think in part of what it is the fact that with the books, okay, here's your starting point. All right. And with the manga, here's your starting point. With Marvel, well, what story do you want to read? Well, I mean, you could start here, here, or you could start in the 60s, you can start in 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. We can start in 2005. It gets to
The
the point where
reboots.
you could literally start at any given point. So I could see that affecting that, because I mean you don't have, I mean, sure, people like Civil War, go pick up the Civil War graphic novel. There are things like, if you like Thor Ragnarok, go pick up Thor Ragnarok and World War Hulk. There are things that are quickly translatable, I think. But and I guess you could start at that starting point and just continue from it, but there's not a definitive starting point as there is in any typical book series or mangas. Like, if somebody likes Dragon Ball Z and they want to go read the manga, go pick up Dragon Ball Z #1 and then get 2 and, count by number.
Yeah. And right next to the Ito books, part of why I'm such a big fan of them is they're all collected pretty much, and the stories most of them are self-contained, or the short stories are in these hardcover collections, which looks really nice. So for me as a collector, I gravitate towards books like that, series that are complete. There's no reboots and all that stuff, because it can get overwhelming.
Yeah. You just have one single story that's told, and then you move on to something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that's one of the reasons that it seems, I mean, I know Dark Horse obviously in the early times, and then Image when it started, it definitely changed the entirety of the market, and then you've seen so many other publishers come about, and now you've got it to the point where, look, Kickstarter is a comic book publisher, right? Let's be real honest. It's its own comic book publisher. There's I don't want to get into the rhyme and reason and how all that works, and the fact that there are people that love and hate one another, and it's really whatever. It is what it is, but it is pretty much a comic book publisher to a certain extent. Except that's not what they specialize in. It's just one of their side businesses, I guess. I'll say Kickstarter's side business is comic book publishing. So you've seen that happen. Do you think that the fact that people want direct stories like that, though, has helped affect that market to where they're getting stuff that's like, here's the story, here's the starting point, and it's going to end, and it's not that continuous thing you get from like a Marvel or a DC, or even in some cases, not all, Image?
Sorry, so you think people just want to go and get a contained story as opposed to jumping on a Marvel? Yeah, I think so, because it can get overwhelming. there's so many Marvel and DC books. Like, how many reboots have there? I love Batman, but yeah, there's so many different reboots and versions of him, and same thing with, the characters from
Spider-Man.
Marvel. And yeah, and I mean, those characters are cool, but like, I like myself personally, I just like to get whole collected editions of books that are already complete or sets that are already complete. Like, I've got the Akira set here, the Bone omnibus here, and that's what I gravitate towards too. It's just easier to collect.
Why do you love Batman?
Why do I love Batman?
Yeah.
Because okay, it's kind of scary. He's a detective. He just sneaks. He's an anti-hero when you think of it. He's a vigilante, and he just goes around the dark, and he's just, and the villains are crazy.
You know why he's
Batman.
not really an anti-hero?
Sorry, I said anti-hero.
wait,
Sorry, he's a vigilante is what I mean.
Okay,
Sorry.
because I wouldn't call him an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because one, he collaborates way too much with the police. I mean, when the
Mhm.
police commissioner is a personal friend of yours, and it's like Batman. I mean, he don't know
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, whatever. But yeah, that's not. You can't really pull that anti-hero thing. Plus, I mean,
Yeah.
Batman
No, that was
just
the
don't
wrong
smoke
word I used.
people
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not the Punisher. There.
But we won't look. If you want to, we got into Scott and Jeff Delaney, man. We got into the Punisher in the whole, and like, I mean, the Punisher's just a serial killer when it downright boils down to it. That's all. That's all he is.
Yeah.
Punisher's kind of psychotic. Like Punisher, like for anybody out there watching, I just want to let you know, you shouldn't look up to Frank Castle. You really shouldn't, especially if you're in a position of authority. I'm not saying anything really specific here. I'm not, but you just really shouldn't look up to Frank Castle because he's a serial killer, right? You'd be more apt to look up to Deadpool than you would to Frank Castle. At least he tries to be a hero. Frank Castle just wants to murder people, right? That's what it is. I lost my point when you brought up the Punisher. I had a question.
Sorry. Oh man.
The Batman.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
But you are kind of right, real quickly, in the fact that Batman is an anti-hero, because if he, and by that I don't mean Batman, I mean Bruce Wayne, was truly wanted to be a hero, he's got way better ways to go about it than beating up the homeless and the poor people.
Yeah. But then if he feels like if the current justice system is corrupt enough and they're not doing enough to clean up the streets, there's obviously some good people in law enforcement like Commissioner Gordon, but you feel like you have to take matters into your own hands, which I think that's something a lot of people can really, also why I love Batman, because there's that part that you can relate to. There's some injustice going on that you feel like nothing's being done, but if you could somehow do it yourself and take care of it, I mean, there's that fantasy behind it. There's somebody who has the money and resources to do the thing.
Yeah, I get relating to that part. My whole problem, the fact that why I've never related to Batman, is because, like, if you have billions and billions and billions of dollars, and these are the results you find, you're not a good detective. You just I'm sorry. I feel like when the problem is there's a society and there you have these downtrodden area and people are just down on their luck and they're committing crime, and you have billions and billions of dollars, and your detective skills tell you, I'm going to dress up like a bat and go beat up the people causing problems, as opposed to taking the couple $1 billion that it costs to make everything that you made to go dress up like your fancy little bat fantasy whatever, half furry fetish, whatever it is, right? And you could have invested that in the community, though, and it would have fixed the community at a fundamental level to where you didn't have people arguing over necessities. When everybody has their necessities met, people are far less to go out and do things to the ilk that they were doing. So I don't know. It's just a really weird story. And again, I know that makes a terrible story. I know, like, you needed, like, for Batman to be the character that I just described, his books would never sell. Batman wouldn't, like, if that's what Bob Kane, like, if that's who they made up when they made that character, right, that Batman wouldn't exist. That's just how it happened.
Okay.
Sorry, Becca, I went on a Batman ramble.
No worries. That's a difference of opinion.
And it's fine. Like I said, I'm gonna enjoy your character. I just look at that character. It's like It's like looking at Elon Musk or Jeffrey Bezos and going, "Hey, they do a lot of good for the world."
Mm. Oh boy.
Hey, look,
Hey,
I'm
Becca.
tired, and I told you, Scott. I figured this might, for some reason, Scott, take over this interview before I make it more political and just dig myself a hole. And like, if you want to hear my political side, go listen to the link that's to Killer Factor, and I'm gonna stop shoveling. Scott asked the question.
Okay. Is there someone within the industry that that you met along your travels that has really influenced you?
Oh my goodness. There's been so many people, especially in the GTA and the Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge communities. I guess like my time. Well, I'm not okay. So I'm not a member at Raid Studios, but I've done color flatting work for them. So a lot of the artists there helped influence my work, and they would critique it, and I learned a lot more tricks from them. And then people like Casey Parsons, like sitting next to him at a convention and seeing how he works. You know, you pick up some art tips from him. Um, it's just watching other artists work is always so inspiring, because then you pick up things like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Like, because I always want to learn more as an artist. And, I'm still that part of me that's from my childhood that's still there. I just want to keep getting better and better and better and improve my skills and just learn what different materials people use. My method though, I try to work with less is more with material wise. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm also discovering, well, last year I discovered Poscas, right? So I'm just like, oh, these are so cool,
Wait,
And
what's
I
a
just
Posca?
Posca paint pens, the acrylic paint pens.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And then,
okay.
yeah. And then recently, and I want to try this too. So anyone listening, if you want me to do a remark on a Funko Pop, like feel free because I want to try this. I want to try painting like on the Funko Pop packaging with the Poscas. I'm like, that would be so cool, right? Just learning that that's a thing, and I'm like, I really want to try that. I really need to practice, but then I'm like, I think I can do it like right at the table. So like at Fan Expo or something. Like, and yes, I will be at Fan Expo this August. Coming up in a few weeks. Oh man, what is time? What is time anymore?
I know.
Yeah.
It's flying.
Yeah.
In your art style, like
Yeah.
I was going through your gallery, and I noticed, like, I know you do a lot of watercolor ink.
Yeah.
Do you also do a lot of fine line? Like you
Fine.
did all the interior work on your book, right?
Yeah.
Like in all the shading. Do you do it digitally, traditionally?
I do both.
Yeah.
So like starting with Gehenna, it was mostly traditional, and I would just color it on Photoshop. Except the last 2 pages of Gehenna in the Gehenna trade, it's not on my website, those pages, but that was the first digital pages I drew. That was when I first got the iPad Pro, and I got the Procreate app. So those are my first 2 comic pages I drew on that program. And then the Wormhole Club Tragedy, most everything from those books has been from Procreate. Just drawing the comics on there, just to save time from scanning images and erasing and correcting the inks and that. Like it's just, and just using that program, it's helped me be less afraid of making mistakes and just being more confident with inking lines and stuff. So 2 of the covers from Wormhole Club are traditionally drawn. So, which reminds me, I need to make a cover for issue 4. But yeah, I just like to have something in my portfolio with traditional artwork. I don't want to lose, like, I don't want to forget how to draw traditionally, right?
Yeah.
So I do like to use, paper and pen and all that stuff. But I'm also, like I said, I'm comfortable with tech, with computers really, and just seeing how natural Procreate is. Like before, I didn't like to draw digitally, like with Wacom tablets and stuff. Like it just felt so mechanical and and they're always so big, and I'm like, this is gonna hurt my eyes at the end of the day. But with the iPad Pro and with Procreate, it just feels so natural. Like my own lines are there, right?
Yeah.
It's Yeah, and like the different settings and tones are there for light adjustments, and it's great. It's a great tool, and I've drawn
It
so many
just
things.
makes life easy, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's easy to travel to, and um, yeah, and it's nice not to use so much paper. You know, I think about like the trees and deforestation and how much is being used to make paper, and then it's like, oh, okay, well I can use less paper with this method and just make prints or books with
I real
the
quickly,
artwork.
I don't think the amount of paper that you're using doing that is in any way significant if you compare it to the amount of like magazines or books or things that literally just get
Yeah,
thrown out for corporate reasons when they could be given to people to read and use. They're just literally thrown into the dump for, so they can be written off properly, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think what you're using paper wise is nothing you should concern yourself with.
Mm,
Unfortunately, I mean, we need to concern ourselves with the fact of the corporations that are printing these things and then putting them out in the way that comic books used to be, as
mhm.
far as and then they'll rip off the cover, send it back, and then blah blah blah, and that's how they're doing it. And that's where your papers get. I mean, I'm sure there's a number of other things, but as far as in print medium, that's the one I've
Mhm.
really seen that it's like that's kind of gross.
Mhm.
It's kind of
Mhm.
gross.
Yeah. Yeah, fair point, but it's like I feel I don't know. I just like if I can do my part, try to reduce waste or paper consumption. I don't know, it just makes me feel better somehow, but you
Just
know what I
make
mean?
sure
Like
you use the whole page.
mhm.
That's all you
Mhm.
have to do, because at
Yeah.
least you're taking and making a piece of art and trying to
Mhm.
do something to make to cause an emotion, to elicit reaction, to make a person feel some kind of way, as opposed to
Yeah.
being worried about nothing more than the bottom line. And I
Mhm.
think in that the use of that paper is a good use. You know what I mean? At least you're taking that piece of its tree, and I'd say that is probably the greatest way to honor its memory, is to make it to where what you put on it is something that is part of you.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know. And
That's
I think,
true.
yeah, I think in doing that, yeah, I would say, what better way to honor a tree besides not cutting it down? But hey, you
Yeah.
didn't do that. That paper's
No.
gonna be on the shelf regardless, Becca. I promise.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I'm too exhausted, Scott. Ask a question. My brain's going all over the place.
All right, I'm just intrigued by because I know you talked about the spiders in your story.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that story?
The Gehenna Death Valley. So the basic pitch for that one, I tell people it's like Scooby Doo goes to hell, except there's no dog, no mystery machine, and the monsters are 100% real. And so it started out as a 6-issue series, and I collected it into a trade. That was 2019, and then the pandemic happened, and then the Schuster's happened, and it won a Joe Schuster Award, which was I was surprised when that happened. It was a nice surprise. So it won the award for the Jean Day Award for Independent Publishing. So around then, I had only 19 books left of the trade. So I'm like, oh no, what do I do? You know, because like this needs to be a bigger deal now. So with help from Sam Noir, I'm sure either
Yep.
both of you know who he's.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Raid Studio. He and Cauldron. He helped me with my Kickstarter. So together we set up this Kickstarter, created a deluxe edition of Gehenna, and collaborated with artists, and they made pinups like Casey Parsons, Jane Huron, Arnold Trinidad, Paula Minko, and Chip Zdarsky. Those two made the variant covers of the graphic novels. I know it's not a common thing to do with graphic novels, but I was just like, let's just go with it, have fun with it anyway. Oh, and
That is
Kuchuba,
pretty
Jonathan
neat.
Kuchuba. That's the other artist I'm forgetting of.
Mm.
That guy's a machine, man. Like the way he makes comics. Um, but yeah, so that was a cool collaborative thing to work with from artists with the GTA, and even we worked with a 3D sculptor and made a spider figurine for
Yeah.
the campaign. I wish I had more of those, and because I would like to make more figures of my characters. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. So yeah, Gehenna, it's basically horror, body horror story. Classic premise of like friends going on a road trip. They see a sign, "Do not trespass." They're like, "Who cares? Let's check it out." And chaos ensues, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I think with the questionnaire you guys sent there, I think I mentioned I have arachnophobia too. So a lot of the spiders are inspired by that fear of spiders. So
is that is that a you trying to get over your phobia kind of thing?
that was not the goal, but it did help somewhat. Like I still don't like spiders, but it made me mellow out a little bit. That's the best way I could describe it. And I didn't have any nightmares of spiders, of the monstrous spiders, while I made this comic. So that was an interesting thing that happened during that process. So yeah, art is therapy, horror is therapy. There you go.
That's what were you saying, though, Scott?
I forgot my question.
Sorry.
Hey, it's okay. No. I did it to him. You ain't gotta apologize, Becca. I don't know what you're talking
Right.
about, and I ain't sorry. I'm gonna be frank about it. Look, there's a lot of questions. I might have worked like a 12-hour shift today, and that's how this quest went down. Because the quest, it must continue, man. Like man, you just that. Why body horror? Just why people? I gotta ask. Have you ever seen the worst filmed example of body horror? It's from Serbia.
Oh, Serbian film. Is that what you're talking about? That's all I'll say.
The fact that all I had to say was it's from Serbia. So is Vlad, by the way. One heck of a colorist over here, as well as one of the co-hosts on the questionnaire. But yeah, the fact that all I had to say was so that's a little too much body horror for you. I'm just curious where your body horror gauge is.
I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, look, I ran when I ran the radio. One of the things we did was a horror movie review show, and there were three of us, and we each picked a movie, and one of them, I'll smack the out of him I ever meet him for picking that film, because I'm sitting here like 5 minutes in, I'm like, I want to turn this off. But you know, we were supposed to review it, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just like, I just want this movie to be over. I just like.
So
wow. You ever play a moment like that?
Yeah. So I just with body horror, I prefer films like The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. Yeah, that stuff like that, and an indie film, The Void. I enjoy that one a lot. Just stuff like that. And with body horror, I do use real life inspiration just because I have some family who work in medicine, you know, so I'm quite comfortable with watching like surgeries, you know, whether it's like.
You got me. I feel like I've seen The Void. How old is that?
It's recent-ish. Hang on. It's on Prime right now. I've got it queued up there. It's 2016.
Yeah.
2016.
Okay. Maybe I don't know.
It sounds familiar.
I'll have to see.
Yeah, but it's on Prime, at least Prime Canada. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's a nice little throwback of the 80s style horror, but I enjoyed it personally. It was
that's a good level of body horror. You're keeping that there. I mean, I think The Thing is a prime example of it being done right early on. Truly, because that's just some wonderful, properly done body horror, in my opinion. I want to know though, is there ever anything that's popped in your head as far as to create that you went, ooh, that's a little far?
That's where I'm at with Wormhole Club Tragedy 4 right now. I'm just like, oh, should I warn people? You know, I'm just like, this is getting kind of gory. But I'm like, I know, I just worry. I'm like, am I just, not comfortable, but I'm just like, there's the imagery, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's a bit too much with people, like, and then I'm like, if I'm thinking like that, then I should probably do it. Just keep going with
Yeah.
the imagery. And then based on the reaction I got from Alfonso, for example, and Paul Rush, who also works at Studio Comics, they're the guys who print my comics, for reference. Yeah, they're both like, ooh. So I'm like, all right, cool, doing something right.
And Alfonso, like I said, is a great guy. If y'all want to know more about him and Studio Comics, go back to the last episode of season 1 on YouTube. Well, on the YouTube. If you're on the Spotify, it's like 33 episodes back, approximately, if my count is correct, to where you can see to where Alfonso, because that is a man that just genuinely loves comics, like at a level of like, dude, if someone told me you didn't love comics, I don't think I could ever believe another word that came out of that person's mouth. You know, I'd be like, you, sir, are a liar. I have talked to Alfonso. I don't believe you.
Lives and breathes comics, and he's printed all of my stuff, all of my comics, my trade paperbacks, my prints. They do hardcovers now, FYI. So if anyone's interested in that, hit them up.
Yeah, and if they look at something and they say that's awesome, they know what they're talking about.
They know what they're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I gotta switch total gears though, because it said what you've currently been watching, and you list off a couple of animes. One of them being the OG Hellsing, which yes, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Like I haven't watched that in a while, and I read that, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have to find a way to watch that again because it's been a long time. The other one's Vampire Hunter D. Now I'm curious, are you referring to the original or Bloodlust? Because that's all there is, correct?
Bloodlust, like the newer one, not the one from the 80s. Yeah,
that is like ridiculously animated frame for frame, and it's like
with the Carmella. That one.
Yeah, just wow. Out of every anime I've ever seen, I don't want to know how many man hours went into making that, to be real honest, because
it's a work of art, that one.
From
start to finish.
I think as far as looking at animes and just any kind of animated film I've ever seen, I can't think of one off the top of my head anyways that looks as clean as Bloodlust does.
Yeah. I forgot. There's an anime I totally forgot that I absolutely adore, and I can't believe I didn't mention it. Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, good
I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Yeah, really that one is also my go-to.
You got really good taste, Becca. I'll give you that.
I think. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent taste.
Those are classics for a reason. They're just, man.
What did you think of the TV show?
Sorry?
The Netflix.
The Netflix show? I should try it again, but I struggled to get through the first episode. I'm not gonna lie. I am so picky with, like there's some remakes I was like, okay, I enjoy this. Like I enjoyed the One Piece live action somehow. Like, I don't know how it worked, but it worked. But I don't know, just Bebop, I don't know. If there's ever a successful live action, I'm hoping someday it happens, but I don't know. Right now, I'm just sticking with the original anime. It's its own special thing. I don't know what it is, but it's.
I just think that's a hard one because then we've discussed it. Who was it? With Jeff Delaney. We discussed the fact that there are things that make comics very unique as far as they don't translate. It takes me a minute to remember, Scott. Don't giggle. You're not on every freaking show that I do. All right, all right. If you were on every one of them, I promise.
What with John?
Huh?
You said John Delaney, right?
Well, I know that. No, but I'm saying you giggled because me going trying to figure out who it was, man. Don't give me crap. All right, I'll start making you like write up the descriptions after I edit them. Don't don't mess with me. Don't mess with me, Scott. Oh well, I'll be like, here's this file, dude. Watch it and write up a description. And you'll be like, oh, this ale. You know, Scott gets 1 day early access, so y'all can get early access quicker. So hey, whatever. You watch them anyways. Plus, you're the one that's the writer out of the two of us. Not that I might not be working on like 3, but that we're not getting into that, right? The uniqueness in comics. So I'm curious. Do you think there are obviously like I said, things that can be done in comics that clearly can't be done in film or television? Do you think the same thing stands as far as for anime? Like there are things that just strictly won't work in live action, not even because they can't be done. Because at this point, let's be frank. If you've got the
Yeah,
money, there's not a lot that can't be done, but that doesn't mean it'll necessarily translate well.
there's just some things. I think in the case of Bebop, we haven't had a good live action yet. I think, like, if someone were to ask me, I don't know. I just remember there was a time, just to bring back Lord of the Rings, right? I would have thought that for sure would not have translated well with film, because there was, when I was going, just really getting into it, I read all the books and then I was watching all the animated movies. I'm just like, oh, this sucks. This isn't. I'm sorry if I offend anybody. I'm not a fan of the animated films so much. But then I was really skeptical with how the movies would work, But then it just blew my expectation. They just came out at the right time. It got the tone of the books right. I was like, they did it. And I saw Fellowship of the Ring 5 times in theaters. Like, I was so happy, that there was this version that worked, these movies that worked finally, we just back then, all you could do is animate the story, and they couldn't even get the animation right. They couldn't get all 3 movies.
Yeah.
So I think it's a timing thing that eventually someday something will work. And just think about superhero movies. How long did it take until there was a good superhero movie that worked? Like, before Blade, right?
I
I think,
mean, there's some Batman and Superman films I think that people
yes.
they work, but as far as to
Correct,
take it, like,
yes.
because you're right. I mean, once Blade happened.
That was when I think things started to kick off some more.
I love that I
After.
still have this, and it somehow has
Yay!
survived like 25 years of plus since the Chicago Comic-Con that I got it from. It was actually Wizard World, where they were just launching this film. I don't know how this thing. It's foam. I don't know how it's still in one piece, and I don't. With the past 25 years of my life, how this made it through.
I wonder how much that would be worth. I'm just curious.
I'd laugh if this was like some big high cost, because it's like, no, all these are destroyed. How do you have a complete one? I'd look at you and go, I don't know. I don't know how it made it. I don't know how it made it. I don't. Like,
That's impressive that it survived.
if I explained to you my life from like getting this to right now, you'd be like, how is that? I was like, I don't know, because I really like Blade is what I'll go with. Because I do. But and I'll say on Cowboy Bebop though, I think one of the biggest things that'll be difficult about really, really, really getting it live, or really getting it right in live action, is finding your Spike Spiegel.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough because he's such a beloved character, and Steve Bloom, the voice actor. It's like the way Bebop, the anime, works in North America is that voice cast. The North American, like, it's just it's so perfect. Like, somehow it all works, and just to recreate that, I don't know, but maybe someday somebody will get it right, and we'll just be like, wow, remember we were talking about, like, I have no idea how they're gonna make this live action Bebop work, like, in real life. There's just this version on Netflix or whatever, and
it's the problem. I think the problem was trying to do that live action is the same problem you have with trying to do Trigun live action. It's to get someone that looks like the title character in stature. Because because I'd like to say Spike and Bash they have fairly similar builds as far as they're tall, they're thin, and they have very, very, very long limbs. It's a very, very unique body type. I do think it's funny though. I never figured it. If you could find somebody with that body type and they were a really good actor, you could just do their hair up different. They could probably play both of them.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, man. And this, can I say, Becca, has been a phenomenal quest. Scott, I ain't gonna lie, right? And Becca, I ain't gonna lie. I really need a shower. It's been a long.
No worries.
Long.
No worries.
Right, but
It's been a long day.
before
Can I
we
ask
do
one more
that,
question?
yeah, that's what I was getting ready to get to, Scott. Why you gotta jump on my bones, dude? Jeez, I'm going to take a shower, like right now. Just leave.
All right. Well, while he's gone, all right. Is there any inspiring words that you have for young artists or writers who are just starting out?
Oh man, like all I can say is just do it. I mean, it sounds so basic and maybe uninspiring, but no, like seriously, it's like if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. You never know until you start. And yeah, starting is the hardest part of the creating process, but once you get going, you keep going. And don't let anyone stop you or tell you like say you're good at drawing, you're going to come across people who are going to try and discourage you along the way or get jealous of you or who knows what, right? Don't let that stop you. Just you do you, focus on yourself, focus on your craft and your story. You'll meet good people along the way, right? And don't be afraid to take risks as long as, be responsible, but don't let fear hold you back, right? Just do it.
Look,
Perfect.
I cannot agree more with you, Becca, and I say that just from my personal journey, from entertainment, from starting hip hop to running this quest. And I mean, now I'm playing D&D with Alan Henry, which still, like, the fact that I'm playing Alan, like, D&D with the Cocaine Bear is just really, and or Kong, or a big friendly giant, or whatever you want to know, or a freaking orc, or yeah, I mean, the dude's done so much. It's really, really weird. So yes, if you have a dream, I fully agree. Don't let somebody discourage you. You bloody well do it. That's what you do, right? And what else? What else I want you to do, right? I want you to go check the links in the description. Make sure you check out Becca's work, right? 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 Besides that, right? I want to let you know if you've enjoyed this quest, right? What I want you to do is I want you to go. I want you to send Becca just a nice dragon, one that's like pretty chill, right? To be her personal travel, right? So this is what's going to just fly you around, right? On a big old pile of plushies on its back, right? Right? Well, you have tacos, cookies, and ice cream, right? Right? That's what this is
Yes.
gonna. I want you to hook Becca up with all that if you've enjoyed this quest. Now, if you haven't enjoyed this quest, again, I ask, why are you to this point? What are you doing? Are you hate watching? That's fine. Do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, right? But if you haven't, like I said, and you want to bother Becca, what I want you to do, right, is I want you to send them Lord of the Ring spiders. Them terrible, terrible, terrible spiders, right? Right? And I want you to make sure before you send them, you do two things. One, you smother them in rotten fish, right? And two, you hook up a big old nice, like, early 90s style speaker system with some serious bass. Talk about baby shark, baby shark, right? I guarantee Becca will not enjoy that whatsoever, right? Besides that, I just want all y'all out there to do three things, right? One, always give it a thumbs up, or the equivalent wherever you're listening. Two, always get your comic on. Three, have a good night, y'all.
This has been the questionnaire.
Where's the link?
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
In the link below, yes?
I will drop it like it's hot.
That's another party.
It's cool, man. I love it.
The questionnaire. That is all.